Tonight, folks, we're talking to Mike, who has his own indie label, and he's going to tell us all about the behind the scenes, hopefully, of the indie label world, what's involved in it, what we need to know in order to get ourselves a record deal. So, Mike, tell us what you're up to, who you are, what you're all about.
Fantastic. Well, first of all, thank you very much. As I said off air, I really appreciate the opportunity to come and have this chat. Yeah, really interesting to hear about all the things you're doing. It's all fascinating stuff and really good for supporting independent artists. So thank you. Yeah, my name is Mike Five. I run a record label called Lights and Lines, and we started that in 2021. In the end, I tried to start it in 2020, and then the world went nuts.
Yes.
So I didn't. Yeah, and I've been. Bit of background, I've been in and around the independent music scene for a very long time, and I guess from a reasonably young age I was in a couple of bands that got quite big, reasonably popular, sort of local area big, massive, and had a few friends and people from other bands and stuff who wanted some help, putting out their own CDs, for example, or putting on gigs and stuff like that. So I was always kind of doing those sorts of things, as well as playing and being in music as well. So Lights and Lines, before it was a record label, I knew I wanted to do something, and my background was video editing. So I did probably a year or so where I was helping artists make music videos. Kind of keen to do some stuff that was a bit different and a bit more interesting, and some people in the local area charging thousands of pounds for stuff. So did a little bit of that, and one guy I was doing a bit of video work for said, "Oh, can you help me put out the whole album?" So we kind of worked together and got him various kind of bits of media, reviews in blogs and airplay on different radio stations and stuff like that. Helped him kind of produce CDs. It was all CDs at the time. Did all of that sort of stuff, and he went from someone that nobody had ever heard of him, and he just decided one day he was going to start knocking out some tunes. So I thought they were great. Met him at this networking event to becoming someone who was pretty popular. He had really big following on different platforms, and lots of people wanted to hear him. Got a slot at a local festival and stuff like that, and really good. And I really enjoyed doing it, and so I thought, oh well, maybe we'll that's an interesting thing. And the video thing was it was a nice idea, but it was taking up a lot of time, and I wasn't charging a lot of money for it. I was charging basically nothing for it. So I kind of thought, okay, well, let's maybe I'll change what we're doing. And for a little period I had a team of people, and we started doing a bit like you guys. We started doing reviews of stuff that was coming out and so on. But you mentioned it just now off air, the inbox gets flooded very quickly, and suddenly I really go, I don't want to I don't want to review everything, and then B, I kind of I want to make sure that I get the ones that I really do want to review, kind of get them really good, and kind of realize that actually that's not I did a lot of live review stuff because I used to co-host a podcast and stuff, and I much preferred that kind of in the moment instant reaction to writing. So I kind of 2020, it's a long way of saying I started a record label, but in 2020 I wrote a New Year's resolution, which I never do, but that one of them was start a record label, and I kind of posted it on Instagram or whichever platform it was at the time, and I kind of went, well, I've posted it, so I thought I've got to do it then, haven't I? And so I started trying to figure out, okay, well, what would that look like? Why am I doing it? What makes it different, and so on. Obviously the pandemic hit, which slowed down the launch, but I spent that year kind of trying to talk to other people who are running record labels, listen to a couple of really good podcasts, did a lot of reading, and kind of tried to think, okay, what is it that I like about this? You've got all these different things that make up what a label could be, and it's a bit of I wouldn't say there's a clear definition really now of what a record label is anymore. I think everyone does something slightly different. So I sort of thought, well, what's our thing? What is it I really want to focus on? So I had the idea that when I launch this, it's going to be it's an independent label. We want to be first and foremost, we want to be really fair with the artists. We want to do 50-50 splits. A lot of indie labels do 50-50 splits, but most of them, like the major labels, will still try to recoup the costs, the outgoings before the artist gets the money. I didn't want to do that, so I thought, well, how can we need to build a bit of a community around this. How can we fund the label? So we did a Kickstarter, and I launched it with a subscription model. So you could sign up to the label, different tiers, and essentially you pay one fee for the year, and you can, on the first tier, you get everything digitally. So you get WAV files and MP3s and all that, whatever kind of file you want, really. Get everything digitally, all the artwork, and whatever we release in a year. So if we release 6-10 albums in a year, you get absolutely everything. And it's about 25 quid to do that. All those 25 quids that, you know, came in to do that, obviously going in a pot to launch and fund the label and publish stuff. And then we did a CD tier as well, which is a bit more expensive, but you get everything on CD as well. And it works out cheaper than if you bought everything individually. And what we're getting people to buy into is the idea of a community and a label and, you know, that sort of stuff. And it enabled me to, you know, there are the funds to go and do the production, which means every time we sell something outside of the subscription model, I can give the artist half the money. So that was the first thing, is make it a really fair deal, and the label takes half and reinvests it back into the label. I don't think you'll find a better deal as an artist. I've not come across one. So that was the first thing. And then I guess the second thing was, you know, really want to build this idea around community. So having worked in and around independent musicians and put on gigs, I've run festivals, spent 7 years doing a weekly new music podcast, New Music Saturday, with my good friend Dr. Bones, done all these amazing things. And the things that I enjoyed was getting people together that had, you know, that same feeling when they heard something new and they got excited about it and all of that. So I wanted to create that community. So I kind of positioned Lights and Lines as a music collective and a record label. So the record label is, you know, we will sign artists that we like and we think we can work with and all of that sort of stuff. But the collective bit is, I also look for ways to get other people involved. It's a bit like running a sort of co-op, right? In that, you know, you can, you know, at zero cost, you can be involved. So we ask people if they want to do remixes of tunes, and we, you know, get the artists to pick their favourites, and we release it as a B-side. It's a bit of nice cross promotion for people. We've run album writing contests, so where we did in the month of May, we get a group of people together. So we had about 50 people each year sign up. Some of them solo artists, some of them bands. Doesn't cost anything to sign up or anything like that. And your job is to write an album or an EP during the month. So write and record it. It doesn't have to be you know, mastered and finished, but, you know, have it mixed and ready. And we kind of gave away, you know, we said, right, we'll sign the artist that we think is the best, and we'll release their album on the label. That was the idea. And it just kind of grew from there. And then so that kind of got us up and running. And then last year, so not much happened, and I was really conscious of the fact that, you know, we've still got people subscribing, and depending on when you subscribe, some people didn't get much. So kind of came back in 2025 and went, right, if you're one of this group that kind of subscribed at the time, we've kind of dipped for a little while, we're giving you another free year. We're kind of, you know, not rebranding or relaunching, but we're kind of in phase 2 where we really want to, you know, social media is a part of it, looking at different, you know, other platforms like Threads, like Blue Sky and places like that, you know, as opposed to just, you know, just being on Twitter, building our mailing list to get, you know, more people on there and give away, you know, exclusive things and different things and so on. And we've, you know, just kind of ramped right back up. So it's been a up and down, very busy kind of 4 years, but I feel like I've learnt a lot. I'm also sort of semi-running a warehouse in here because it's full of CDs and boxes and envelopes.
Well, I guess. Do you hold all the stock, I presume?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
So how does it work from the off? I'm an artist. I see you and I say, oh, I might want to try and get onto that label. How do I do it?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I mean, the first question I always ask people is why do you want to be on a label? Because I think that the answer to that question depends on what you should do next, I think. So I've had, as you can imagine, all sorts of conversations with all sorts of different bands and artists and so on. And, you know, the ones that say, well, you know, I need an advance to go and record my album and I want someone to handle X, Y, and Z and all that. We're a small independent label. We haven't got it. That's not what we do. That's not. There are labels that do it. Go and find them. Go and speak to them. But, you know, it's, for me, I'm mostly interested in, I mean, I have to love the music. So it's an exercise in curation. It's a very personal opinion. I'm the only sort of A&R person, if you like. I've got other people that help out with the label and stuff. But ultimately, I make the decisions on who we sign. So, you know, if I don't like it, what does that matter? You know, go find someone who does, because there's hundreds of people that do. You know, my opinion might be absolutely rubbish, and that's fine. So there's a little bit of that. There's a little bit of, you know, where are we with our roster? Because I try to sign artists that I can work with over a long period of time. Because the whole community aspect of it is, the first thing you release will try and introduce the artist to that community, and I'm always trying to build that community. But actually, often it's the second and third things that really kind of blow up a little bit, and we're trying to help people, get their music and their, I hate the word brand, but it is sort of their personal brand and all that sort of stuff. Trying to get people to get to that next level, and ultimately it's about, if someone likes this artist on the label, there's a good chance they'll like this other one, because why would I have chosen them if there wasn't something about them? So it's not kind of a genre thing. It's a taste making exercise, if you like, and what people think of my taste is up to them, right? But the things that you want to send to anyone, I think, I'm actually writing a guide on this at the moment, which we're going to give away to artists, because this question comes up all the time. But at a minimum, as an artist, the first thing you want to do is research. There's supposed to be, I think there's about 100,000 independent record labels across the world. So there's plenty of opportunity out there, right? Research the labels. Some are very niche. Some do, very specific things. Some are cassette only. Some are, one particular genre. One thing. Find the ones where you think, oh, I would fit really well into that. Have a look at the website. Have a look at the kind of, the ethos, the about, the, whatever. And when you're sending something, for me, personally, and this is where different people's advice will contradict, but I personally just want to get to the music as quickly as possible. So I would just put the link to the music. Go, hey, I'm thinking about releasing this thing. Here's the music. That's the first thing, because that's the first thing I'm going to click on, regardless of what the rest of it says. But then I would write, a couple of things just to say, here's why I think it'd be good to work together. Love to have a conversation. And people that do that and submit, and do it in that way, I'll always have the conversation if I think, oh yeah, no, I quite like the music, and sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't, right? But for me, it's as simple as that. It's don't just come to me because I'm a bloke on this channel who runs an indie label. I might be completely wrong for you, but the principles of what I'm saying, I think, generally apply. It's about doing your research and making it kind of personal, and give yourself lots of options. Don't just go and find the ones that you think will really work and see what happens.
So we get over the first hurdle then. I've sent you my track. You phoned me back, or you've contacted me and said, yeah, I really like what you're doing. This is what we're going to do next. What is that?
I mean, I always set up a call first, and just video call like this or whatever, and just want to have a conversation. I really want to understand where the band or the artist is at, what their ambitions are, what their expectations are. And also there's often a lot of kind of explaining from our side. As I say, people have different understandings and interpretations of what a label is, because that definition is not fixed, right? So the first thing is that kind of alignment call, and just kind of see, there are specific things running a label that are really important to get out there first. So people always ask about, who owns the rights to the music, for example. And the answer is it's technically the label, right? And in an ideal world, an indie label should retain those rights. And if you look at the example I always use is Bleach by Nirvana. It was the only album they ever released on Sub Pop, which was a relatively small, relatively unknown label. Obviously, they moved on for the next album, Nevermind, and went to Geffen and absolutely blew up worldwide. Sub Pop now, they still own the rights to Bleach. Sub Pop can release whatever they like, and they'll still sell 10,000 copies of Bleach every month, but that'll fund everything else. So for the lifeblood of an indie label is the rights. But then people you get a lot of technical questions. Does that mean, I can't play it live? Of course not. Does that mean, if someone wants to cover it? You get all these sorts of things. There's a little bit of kind of technical understanding. What if I want to get out of it? Well, you know what? We're a small indie label, and if you really want to get out of it, I'm not going to fight with you. Do you know what I mean? It's, you probably want to get out of it because it's not going very well, so you're probably not going to need my Bleach anyway.
So do you ask for... So we've got you've signed, you've decided you're going to take us on, and we've got a couple of songs, we've recorded them, all that sort of thing. Do you have any input in the recording process, or where they record, or any of that technicality side of it?
Not generally. I mean, if I'm asked to, we did a great project. I came across an artist who came across him not through his music actually, but became a good friend and discovered he was writing some really amazing music, and he had no idea really how to record it or where to record it or what to do or whatever. So I set him up directly with a producer who's a good friend of mine, who guided him through everything from where to place the microphone to what software to use to whatever, and then he kind of mixed and mastered it all for him. And on a few of those tracks, one in particular, they sent me a version of the track, and I did have something. I kind of said, "Oh, this is amazing." It's kind of, it all comes in at once. So what if you start with the vocal and then you introduce this? And so sometimes, when people need it and want it, I have a bit of input, but we don't. There are some brilliant labels out there. There's a label called Asian Man Records, a guy called Mike, who I think it was, I want to say it's Alkaline Trio. I think he put out Alkaline Trio, his first album. And here's another one where he's remained a small album. Last time I spoke to him, he was still doing it out of his mum and dad's garage. But he's obviously released an album by a band that went on to become massive. And similarly, like I was saying earlier, he can sort of do what he wants. But he's very hot on the label pays for the recording and they organise the studio and they get the band and all that sort of stuff. But he's in a very different place to me. It's a much bigger, much more profitable kind of label. So we don't. We kind of look for, have you got the tracks? We can introduce you to people that can mix them, can master them, or whatever, but we don't have any much recording input.
So what do you like the artist to commit? What's their commitment to you? What do you ask them to say, well, I'd like you to do it if we go down this path, I'd like you to do at least X, Y, Z before we decide, it's working or it's not?
A lot of it is about collaboration. Like a lot of the decision, if you love the music and you want to put something out with someone, it's not just love the music. I've got thousands of albums, right? But I wouldn't put them all out if they all came to me by big or small artists. So it's, does it fit? Do I love it? They're the first two things. Then you're kind of, part of the reason for the alignment call, and it's often a few calls, is can I see myself working with this person? Because one of the things with a lot of independent artists, we're in this amazing world now where you can, I could sit here and record something this evening, but I could put it out tomorrow if I wanted to, right? But from a point of view of a record label, it's not useful to me. It's not going to, no one's probably going to hear it or whatever. So a lot of it is you're going to be working together for 6-9 months, probably minimum, from getting the album properly finished and mastered and stuff like that, because it normally comes to me either in a demo form or fairly well produced and whatever. There's completing it. You're going to have conversations about the artwork. You're going to have conversations about the format. We've released all of our major releases are on CD. We've released a few on tape. We're moving into vinyl now, which is fantastic. So you can have conversations about the artwork, the format. Sometimes people ask you about the track list, and then you're obviously going to look at all the marketing and the promotion stuff. And so for me, first of all, it's, can I work with you? And then the things that I ask of you is it's about collaboration. Like, you as an artist, however small, however big, will have your own, friends, family, audience of whoever. Me putting everything out there on my own is not sustainable, and it's not necessarily going to, do the job on its own. So, the last album we released, which is Beth Sarah was the artist, absolutely superb album, called Fractured. And she's a solo artist. It's just her. It's not like there's 5 people in the band or anything. So we worked really closely to come up with a plan and to kind of go, right, this week we're going to focus on these things, and we're going to post this sort of stuff on these platforms, and I'm going to do this, and you're going to do that, and I'm going to write a newsletter, and you're going to do. And so it's about kind of, I ask for kind of collaboration and almost like mutual consent to kind of, be able to say, are you happy to do these things? We want to tell the story. We don't just want to go, my new song's out and here's a link, because no one cares, right? So it's about, creating that narrative. We're all about kind of storytelling, lights and lines, and albums that have some sort of purpose or meaning. Not to say we never release love songs or whatever, but there's like a million of those, right? So I'm really interested in someone that's got something to say. So yeah, it's our kind of slogan that I'm launching as part of the new website and things like that is make noise, say something, and build community. So I think if you can do those 3 things, that's all I'm asking in a nutshell. How we, what we do.
So what can they expect from you in terms of the promotion strategy?
So we'll come up with a full kind of strategy. It's tailored to every release. We do obviously reuse the things that work, where we can, but we'll come up with everything. We'll put everything, across Bandcamp on the website, submit it to all the distribution platforms. We'll look at kind of staggered releases. Do we do physical release only first and pre-orders and all that? So we'll organise all of that stuff. Sometimes we work on, done music videos for artists and stuff like that. We'll agree kind of. Sometimes I work with people and they're really talented in other fields, right? They're really creative and they want to do all this stuff themselves, and that's fine. But I guess our thing is to make it into a professional package, a kind of something that looks and feels, high quality, sounds amazing, which is why we have, a couple of people over the years that have done mastering for the label to get it, I think when you mix your own stuff, which a lot of artists do, it's really difficult to master that to a high standard.
Yeah, I've spoke to a lot of artists about this, and I mean, even when you get into the top tier of music artists now, there's not very many people who have played it, recorded it, mixed it, mastered it, put it out there, and it's been, yes, Prince, the odd few other people in that mode, but generally they have someone else will do an element of the work.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So we put all those sort of structures in place to give it a real kind of kick out there, if you like, to to really kind of, we want this to kind of explode. And because we're constantly building this community of people that follow the label and have an interest in the label, there's a kind of inbuilt audience for people quite often that our subscribers will get that album, and if we've got 50 subscribers that year, there's 50 people that have got your album. Now, okay, that's they're not buying it technically, right? They're buying it for the label, but that's 50 people. You'd be amazed how many of those people will post stuff, post pictures of the CD or whatever when it arrives. They'll share stuff about it, they'll talk about it, they'll become fans of the artist, and then they're mates or whoever will go and buy it. So it's kind of trying to snowball, through that community. We also do a lot of work. Obviously, we get, try and get blog reviews and radio play and all of that sort of stuff as part of it as well, which is a big, it's an administrative burden, let's say, to get some of those things up and running, on a continuous basis. But we want as many people as possible to hear the music, so we're kind of supporting that.
I mean, one thing I've found is that as I've told you earlier, where a lot of my stuff comes from, that I put on my website and that sort of thing, and as we know, it does take a significant amount of time, to do not that many artists really in a week. So when you do get so many, it's difficult. But I suppose what I found is also is if someone has contacted me and, like, let's say a label or somebody like that, a small label or a small promoter, which I do get a bit of that, and they say, "Oh, can we send you this track?" I go, "Yeah, fine. Let's have a listen." They send it. I might do that track, and then suddenly I get like 5 emails a day from the same people.
It's really
hundreds and hundreds, and unfortunately, I end up not listening to any of them because I'm just a bit fed up. So it is one of those things that you have to be quite careful about. Don't just send me everything you've got. Send me what you think I might like. Let's discuss what the sort of stuff I'm doing. And I'm much more likely to do one a month than I am, 5 a week.
That's exactly it. Yeah, and it's my other career, if you like, my day job is I've worked in sales for a long time, kind of complex B2B stuff. But on LinkedIn is a classic example where people will connect with you, and they'll just bam, here's a link to something, and you should do this, and it goes on and on and on. I just think I don't understand how people think that would work. It doesn't make any sense to me, because it's about all of this is about having human conversations. So the biggest challenge I find actually with getting kind of media coverage and stuff is, unfortunately, it's a really high turnover. So blogs and websites and things that have written nice things about releases and stuff in the past, often by the time you get to the next for the next thing, they've disappeared. There's obviously a few that
is a fact. And this is why I've tried, I don't charge anything for going on the blog unless it comes through one of the paid platforms that we talked about earlier, but it is a bit of a chore to keep it up, and it is a cost. to keep posting the website and having it updated and changing all these things, but I do it because I enjoy that element of what I do. It's a good pastime for me. It's an enjoyable pastime, and whatever you're spending your money on nowadays, you spend it because you like doing it generally. Exactly. If it's a pastime anyway. But yeah, it does. I tried to keep as much on there as I can. And, I've made a few mistakes. I didn't realise I had to start deleting some older stuff because it was just soaking up so much server space on the host.
Yeah.
It was costing a fortune to retain all of the images and everything. But what I have found is, and I've said this before on a couple of the interviews I've done, is that blog posts last a lot longer, it seems, in the the back end of the internet, a lot longer than your Instagram or your shorts or that sort of stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
YouTube shorts, possibly they might hang around further more, but I get things pop up on my website that'll say, on my analytics, that'll say, this page has had 50 views last week, and you look at it and you think, well, that was a year ago.
Yeah.
Where's that? Well, maybe they've released another single, maybe they've released a track and it started to get some traction. People are searching for the band. So for me, that all probably comes down to the SEO of the site and all that sort of stuff as to whether they can still be found.
I think that's it. Like the most popular page on our website for years now has been a page that it was a blog I wrote, which is something like, is SoundCloud still useful? And as much as I'd love to say, our most popular page is our latest release, whatever, the reality is that is the one that gets people in, and it consistently, I mean, it's completely out of date now as well, but it consistently gets, a lot of views every single month, and it's at least 6 years old, I think.
Yeah. I've got a few oddball videos like that on YouTube that totally random about nothing in particular, but they've got the highest view rate on the channel, and you think, well, how does that work? But anyway, that's the weirdness of the internet, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah. But I think the point is exactly right. Like we regardless of the publication, the reason we go, and spend time and trying to create relationships with, bloggers and indie radio as well as major radio and all of those sorts of things is because, particularly with the blogs and stuff like that, is that it's there, pretty permanently, right? Yeah. And it's it helps your ranking if someone's searching for the artist. But it also, it's quotable. It's something you can use to say. It's that kind of validation. It's not just me saying this is great. This person says it's great as well. It gives you a bit of credibility. So, I used to have a very, very large and very strong network of all sorts of people that did all that sort of stuff, and it was amazing over COVID, but over a few years 50% at least have just closed down, don't do anything anymore.
Well, like we said earlier, it's quite time consuming. It's if I just discovered another healthy pastime that I liked more than doing this, it'd probably start to fade. That's just the reality of it. Things nowadays, aren't they? They are a bit throwaway, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's really tough. And I think generally as well, even the bigger publications, they're all struggling for space, especially, ones that used to be print media and now are online only. And, even major newspapers, if you want to, read about whatever's going on in politics or whatever, a lot of them you have to subscribe to be able to read anything.
That's right. And I have got a subscription thing going on if people want to subscribe to the website. There's no, other than getting some maybe, the odd few offer I might be doing or something I might be sending out. There's no. It's just a thing. It doesn't really do a lot. But it is the reason I don't like taking money off the artist. One, because most of them haven't got any money. Two, if there's no money involved, then there's no real expectation. So, I'm not going to say to someone, I will get you 5,000 views from this blog post because you've paid me, £5 or 10 or something like that. I'm not saying that. All I say to them is, I am merely the shop window. I will put your picture and whatever in the shop window. If people choose to stop and look at it or listen to it, that's up to them. I'm not going to try and make them do that.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And, I did a sort of like a panel interview thing at a music networking event a few years ago. I was surprised. I thought I'd be the only person from a label there, but there was another person on the panel was also running a label. And it was really interesting because their approach was not the opposite, but completely different to mine, and one of the key things was they charged artists to be on the label, and I thought, I can't. I mean, fair play to them if that's their model and it works and whatever. It was also streaming only, and I wasn't sure what they were charging them for in some cases. It was more of it felt more like a sort of management contract, or not even that, probably a PR contract. But it was weird to me because having been an artist for a very long time in various kind of groups and bands and at different levels of success, one of the last major bands I was in was scouted by Island Records, I think it was Island Records, and we had this big contract and just went, oh no, I'm not sure about this. Who knows how my life would have turned out if I'd done that. Probably roughly the same, I think, based on what I've seen. But having been through all of that and seen all that, I personally could not bring myself to say to someone, you could join our label, it will cost you 500 quid. That's insane, but that's how some people run the model. And I'm not here to knock that, right? If it works for them, then great. But for me, it's we will invest. We actually never ask anyone to pay anything up front, unless they want something specialist. We might go halves. I did I think I put out a limited edition set of Christmas socks from our artist once, and we went halves on the cost of these. But generally, it's kind of we will fund the physical media, which is the main thing that appeals to people. The CDs going forward, the records, the cassettes where we've done them, and we will put our time and effort into promoting this record and growing your audience. And we want to work with you over a period of time because we want to nurture that. And grow together. We want to grow the label at the same time as we're growing the artist.
Yeah, well, I guess from the artist's point of view, if you're invested as well, then that gives you the motivation to want it to do well.
Yeah. And that's part of the reason we only do 50-50 splits. I spoke to, when I was sort of researching and stuff, I spoke to someone who ran not a major label, but a much bigger label. And some of their artists are, 70-30 or 80-20 or whatever, because they're big artists, right? And they expect more. But maybe it will change in the future. Maybe someone will blow up and I'll have to, give up a bit of my percentage and renegotiate. I mean, if you're talking tens of thousands, then fine, right? But, right now it's 50-50. And when artists try and negotiate that, I'm very firm. It's like, no, I'm sorry, I'm not going to give you, 60% of your one and everyone else 50-50, because then the expectation is I'm taking time away from the other artists to do, more, or not going to, to do more. To get kind of our money back, if you like. So I'm very, everyone gets the same deal. The deal is the deal. It either works for you, it doesn't. A lot of people will say, well, can I just do it myself? And the answer is yes. I did it myself for years. That's why I started a label. And I've got stickers that say everyone should start a label. Just go and start your own. That's fine. I think the more people that are involved and do it, the better.
It's something I've thought about, I suppose, but I just I know I haven't got time. It's as simple as that. I'd rather just do what I do. So just on if we can dig a little bit into finances without going to get too personal about it all, what sort of levels are the artists earning much? Are they paying them? Are they getting anything significant? Does it come, and is that coming from streams, or is it coming from sales, or how are they getting? What's working?
It does depend. The vast majority of the money we earn comes from Bandcamp sales.
Right. Okay.
Is the reality. And everything is you can always pay more on Bandcamp for something if you want to as a fan. So I've sent out a CD this week and I put some other things in the envelope as well as a thank you. But someone I think I can say this because I'm not going to name them, but someone spent 50 quid on an album this week. Right. Which is unbelievable, right? They must really love the artist, and I'm delighted. It's a great thing. That's one sale. So I don't know how many streams it would take to get to that number, but it's significant, right? It's it's thousands and thousands and thousands, isn't it? I can't do the maths. We had a period of time where we had a couple of artists in particular that were earning pretty well from streaming, but since Spotify kind of changed the rules again and stuff, I think that's dipped a bit. So the vast majority comes from Bandcamp. We also sell stuff through the website, but we launched the online store a couple of years ago, and it was pretty good, but we'd already built quite a large audience on Bandcamp, so I think people still mainly go there. I think when we relaunched the website, well, I'm not going to put a time on it because I keep missing the deadlines. But later this year, when we relaunch the website, we'll push the online store more, because then we don't have to give Bandcamp a cut of it, and then the artist obviously gets more money. But I think, Bandcamp's a brilliant platform. I think the vast majority, bar one, possibly two of the artists that we work with are, not doing music full time yet. We're not earning enough for them to give up the day job and whatever else. But they're certainly getting a significant bump in income compared to, doing it on their own or not doing it at all. So, it's not about the money. Obviously, people want to be paid for their efforts, but I think mostly people want to build an audience to be recognised, and that's the kind of, that's where we're at. I want one of our artists, or ideally lots of our artists, but if one artist becomes the next Nirvana with their Bleach, or their next Alkaline Trio, or whoever, I want that, because that's good for everyone, because that will put more investment into the label. Whether it's with us or with someone else, second album or whatever.
I think it's always this vanity, this numbers vanity thing. We're all guilty of it to some degree. You all want to see what the numbers are on your followers and your this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
But for an artist, I think ultimately you much better have 10 people that are going to buy your next album or your next single than 1,000 one-off listens of the track that you've just put out.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And it's when I talk about kind of building communities and things like that, for me, it's finding people that have similar interests. Like, I was always the person that got really excited when I heard something for the first time and sent it to all my mates, or lent them the CD or the record or whatever. And this is just that at scale. This is just, this is amazing, you should check it out. And it's just the people that love to discover and share and talk about new cool music that they like are the people that benefit from the label from a fan point of view, and as a result, the artists that work with us benefit from that. So a lot of it is about, numbers are important to a certain degree, in that what we do has to be sustainable. If we started making a loss, if suddenly all of our subscribers left, or whatever, we'd be in trouble. So I have to deliver a high level of value to people who are investing. And we do lots of exclusive things for subscribers and whatever. But ultimately, if and when one person perhaps blows up and goes massive and has a massive hit or whatever, people will naturally look at where those people that are curious, those super fans. It won't be the millions of people that might stream someone's song in the future. It'll be a small percentage of those. Will dig deeper and go, what did they do before? I've got a Bandcamp download of an EP that Rag and Bone Man made with a couple of mates down in Brighton before he became famous, and I paid like £6 for it at the time, and now he's a massive worldwide artist, and it's fantastic. It's a brilliant, it's very hip hop kind of cool thing, and I'm that person that does that, and those are the people that will invest in us. So that means that everyone on the label, all the artists, will benefit from others growing. So whatever level people grow to and however they grow, some might become really successful, some may not, but I think everyone benefits from gaining. You have there's an element of shared following. There are obviously people that follow the label that like one thing and don't like the other, that's fine, but there's an element of shared following and lifting everyone up, and the more everyone lifts each other up, the more successful.
Definitely. And again, I talk about it all the time, like what we're doing now is this reason I contacted you anyway, because building a network of people who can help each other in some way. You never quite know who's watching, who's listening anyway, and and what the next step can be. We talked about a couple of things earlier, which we might do something with another time, which again might give opportunity for you and your artist, or me and what I'm doing. Who knows? But so if an artist has got a fairly limited advertising budget, let's say, and they haven't got a label, and they want to go out and decide they're going to do YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, whatever it might be, what would be your advice to them as a first port of call?
I don't think there's one answer for that, right? I think you what you need to do, what we take time to do, is we need to try and work out where are the people that care about what you're doing. And they're often in different places. I think if you're going to put money into advertising, then using the kind of Meta suite of advertising, Facebook and Instagram, is really, really good. It's far better than any of the other social platforms or anything like that. A bit of YouTube advertising is all right sometimes as well, but you will get real people buying real things. We've sold a lot of CDs just by putting small amounts, really, 25, 30 quid, 50 quid sometimes, into an advertising campaign for a few days or a month or whatever. And the idea is you make that back if you're selling CDs at a tenner each, whatever. So I think if you're going to do actual advertising, then that. But I think if you're going to be someone who grows through, trying to reach a wider audience and communicate on social platforms, I think it's where are you comfortable and where are the people that are, likely to be interested in your music. I've got, an artist who's, most of their following is on Facebook, and everyone else I know doesn't use it. But it's really useful to use Facebook to get to those people on that artist, because that's where they are. I've got others that I never use Instagram, really. I've never liked Instagram. I don't know why. I do use it because we're forced to use it as a label, but personally hardly ever use it, really. When Threads came along, I thought, that's brilliant. I've got really into that recently. That thing that you found me on sort of blew up for no reason. I need to figure that out. Blue Sky, I think, is excellent. So I like the written ones, where you can, especially I like writing, relatively long form. I like kind of long form sort of stuff. So Threads and Blue Sky, where you connect threads together and tell a story. Other people love Instagram. Other people love YouTube. Other people love, Reddit, we talked about earlier, or Facebook or whatever. So I think the first thing is find, what do you like? There's no point forcing yourself to post a video on Instagram if you hate it. Just don't do it. If you hate it, probably everyone else who likes what you like hates it as well. Go and do the thing you like, and then try and find where they're hanging out, what they're doing. And a lot of that is be interested in other people. As I said earlier, just going on any platform and going, hey, here's my new song. All right, great, who cares? But, yes, you want to do that and you want to tell a bit more of a story and not just write that. But I think most people are into music at some level, right? But most people who are really into music and really interested in stuff, whether they're musicians themselves or whatever, it's about building relationships. It's about building friendships, being human. I always talk to artists about being human when we do like social media, not training, but we do sort of sessions around how to use social and what to post. Where I always say it's being human. If someone likes your post, why not send them a message saying, thanks for liking my post, what are you up to? Just talk to people, really, and in whatever format.
Yeah, what I find is always quite surprising for people is that sometimes I just I've started this new little thing on the website, just like called a spotlight, artist spotlight, and it just does kind of 3 artists at a time usually, and it is literally just an image and kind of a link to their latest track, and a genre, and that's all it is. But that's got quite a lot of traction, I've noticed all of a sudden, and I'll just pick I'll just pick them randomly out from social media that I'm looking through, stick it on there, and then just send them the link or tag them in Threads or whatever. And that's always quite surprising, I think, for the artist to go, oh, hang on, how did that happen?
Yeah.
How have I just appeared on this website?
Yeah, and it's a great feeling as well. We released a single recently, and we did, honestly, relatively little promo, because, both myself and the artist were, there was lots going on with other things, and it was it got onto a couple of playlists and whatever on Spotify, including the kind of, I can't remember what it's called, but the official Spotify ones. And it did, I think it's probably past 5,000 streams now in a few weeks or something like that, which, that particular artist might hit 1,000, but most of their tracks are probably below. So that's a really, sometimes things just happen and you don't know why, right? And other times, I every now and again I Google some of our artists just to see what's out there, and you find stuff that's been written and you didn't even know the person who wrote it or whatever hasn't even told you. Had one, I think it was like a Japanese blog or something that had written something about it. They basically copied and pasted the press release, but I don't know where they got the press release from. I don't know who they were. Well, they obviously liked it, and an audience somewhere was listening. I was looking at, why do people from, I think it was Japan, keep clicking on this link, and it was that link was in this article. So you just don't know.
So now, what is where are you going? What's your aim? What's your ambition? Have you got ambitions to build the label bigger, or have you got kind of a limit to what you can cope with?
No, I mean, building the label bigger is the absolute ambition. I'm very, very dedicated to making that happen. There's always a balance, and you end up doing a lot and whatever. But that is absolutely the ambition. The two or three big things coming up, for us is, this year is the first year that we will have ever released records, actual vinyl records. I do love records. I have a bit of a vinyl collection and all that, but typically for an independent artist, it's incredibly expensive to do that. You spend kind of 5-10 grand on a batch of records, which may take 9 months to arrive, and then you can start selling them and hope you sell enough to make your money back. And as a label, even if you reduce that, you can get 2 grand, let's say, for a small batch. As a label, you do that 10 times for 10 artists, and you're in trouble when you're not, you haven't got the money in the bank. So we've never been able to do it. We've looked at different ways of funding it and so on. There's a few kind of on-demand places. One in particular is very, very good. So I've got a test press down here of a new record. We're going to make a big deal out of that. That's going to be subscribers first. Subscribers to the label and subscribers to our mailing list will get pre-orders on that first. I'm going to limit the number of copies. It's going to be 50, I think we decided. Copies. It's going to have a special imprint on it, so it'll be completely exclusive, completely first, which is amazing. And that's big. That's going to open the door to us doing a lot more with records in the future. And that, in terms of advertising and growing an audience, advertising a record is much easier than advertising a CD, because I think CDs sound better. I personally have 1,200-1,300 CDs or something, and I'm constantly buying them. I love them. Record collectors are where the audience is, right? That's a big booming thing at the moment. So that's number one. Number two is we're introducing a new subscription tier where they will get an exclusive vinyl press, which will be something, so for only 5 people ever sign up, only 5 people will ever get this thing, and that'll be every year be something completely different. So it could be an A side and a B side with a couple of live recorded tracks from 2 of our artists or something like that. It's not going to go on streaming, it's not going to go on Bandcamp, it's not going to go else. So we're going to do that and kind of launch the label in that way. So vinyl's big, records are big, and then the other thing is, as I said, we're going through this kind of relaunch, slight rebrand, so I mentioned I had a large 20,000 in the end followers on Twitter. Gave up Twitter, gave up social media actually pretty much for a whole year, just trying to build things like Threads and Blue Sky, build that audience back, find the people that once connected to us, find new people, because what I really want to do is kind of reintroduce a lot of those. We've done a few, but as I say, we slowed down for a year and then came back. I want to do much more of those kind of community big things where loads of artists are involved. It's good promotion for everyone, it's good cross promotion, good, getting people. By the way, when I talk about community, people don't have to talk through me and talk to each other. Don't worry about me, but getting people just to talk to each other, collaborate, hear each other's music, share stuff, and hopefully that snowballs into sharing audiences, getting more people introduced to more stuff, getting more albums and whatever by independent artists release. I'm very album focused. We do release singles because you sort of have to, but I'm not a singles person. I don't buy or listen to singles, personally. I'm album only. So for me, it's the more albums we can get out there, the better. We're growing our roster and changing our roster a little bit, and just moving into that phase 2. Is we've done a lot. We've built a really good audience. We've been successful. How do we take it to the next level? Is our next kind of goal.
Sure, yeah. Cool. Well, maybe if we find enough people and introduce each other to enough people, we can help everybody get that next step up.
That's a key part of it for me. And by the way, I said thanks at the beginning for this, but I really do appreciate these things are fantastic. I think for everyone. I mean, people listening to me go on might not say it's fantastic for them, but I think it's good for us as a label. It's good for you, good for anyone that's engaging in this, and anyone who may view this. And if you are viewing this, I would encourage you to go and look at the website, and also to go and look at our website, of course, but go and look at what you're doing at New Music Review, because I was looking earlier, so there's so many amazing things on there, and that's the point, right? You want people to discover. We have the same shared goal. We're taking it from different angles. For me, that network, there are so many cool people like yourself who you just do this stuff because you want to and you care about it. I think that's amazing. So the more people we can meet and stuff like that, the better for everyone.
Definitely. Okay, excellent. Well, listen, Mike, I really appreciate you hooking up with us and taking the time to give us a really good insight into what's going on in small indie labels, and we'll be looking to maybe, I don't know, get some people to come to you. You might get some more inquiries from this. We'll be looking. I'm also interested in looking at some of the artists that you've got on board, getting them involved in what I'm doing as well. That would be good. And appreciate you coming on, and thanks for your time.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. It's been good fun.
No worries.